Welcome back to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we take a midweek break to see what's going on in the rest of the Linuxy world, because normally we're just all about games. I'm Vin Stone.
I am Pedro Mateos.
And I am Mathieu Commando.
Okay, gentlemen, big show, as some people like to say, but let's just get right into it, because you know, it's the snaps, they're back, we talk about it every week, because Matthew will not give it up.
Yeah, we talk about snaps almost every week now. We've been doing that for the past few shows. And remember how some people complained that, now the snap store is proprietary and we can only use the Ubuntu parts. So, as it turns out, and as I assumed last week, you can easily make your own snap store, and Dustin Kirkland from the Ubuntu team explains how to do that. Basically, it's just really simple. You just have to run an HTTP server and then point the snap command to use that server instead of the Ubuntu one. So yeah, not really proprietary if it's just HTTP. Really simple to do that. And the blog post that explains how to run your own snap store is super short, and there's really nothing to it, nothing special. And also, Mark Shuttleworth just posted on the Snap mailing list that he didn't expect people from other distros and everything to use Ubuntu's own snaps. They did expect for them to build their own stuff, not rely really on Ubuntu stuff. So yeah, there it is. I mean, you can use snaps, you can build your own, you can host your own. Yeah,
so
really simple.
Once again, snaps becoming more and more like your typical package managers, because now instead of just hosting a repo, you get to host a store. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a package management system, it's really rare to have confined to a particular place on the internet. And I mean,
the Ubuntu Software Center would like a word with you. The Ubuntu Software Center would like a word with you.
Well, Ubuntu Software is just front end for the Ubuntu repos, which also are just HTTP servers. I don't know
precisely, which is why snaps, like I said, we're just going to become a different package manager.
Well, ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, it's just everyone's take on different things. I mean, listen, I just kind of wish people would kind of stop trying to make Snap a thing until it's ready, or we have something. Because this, I think, is a lot to do about nothing at this point.
Currently, no, it's not really ready yet for consumption.
Right, but interesting thing happened on the way to free encryption.
Oh, yeah. So remember last week when I said that probably big CAs would make a drama around Let's Encrypt? Mm-hmm. Well, it has started.
Call it. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So the first one to cause a little bit of drama is Komodo. Mm-hmm. So Komodo is a certificate authority that will provide free certificates for 90 days if you subscribe to their offer. So that's not really the problem here. The problem here is that they also registered a product called
Dude, listen, man, you got to get it right. Komodo's the good guys, and they've been giving free SSL certs since 2007, Brad. I mean...
Yeah.
No, but you got to understand.
Out of everything that they could have possibly gone after Let's Encrypt for, say, an antitrust suit or an anti-competitive suit, because, free certificates for just about everyone that qualifies, kind of a big deal. The last thing I would have expected was them actually trying to file a copyright
or a trademark, right?
Or a trademark for something very similar to Let's Encrypt. And
but, you know, the good news out of all this, I mean, Komodo, I mean, they kind of got together and they worked and they said, you know what, they've abandoned all 3 of their trademark requests. Strider, I mean, what do you really think was up behind this? Do you think this was like just an opportunist like jump? It's like, hey, we need to get that name, and then maybe people accidentally buy our... Full disclosure, LGC is powered by
ridiculous. And if you go on the Komodo forums, I don't know what the CEO is on about, because he's being completely dishonest. He's saying like stuff that, let's Encrypt has no proof that they came up with the name in the first place. Maybe we did. And they are also
when Let's Encrypt copied Komodo's 90-day free SSL business model, man, they stole their business model. Yes, they copied it
and made it free.
So there's one important thing about their 90 days model is that Komodo will give you a 90-day certificate rights. But that's it. I mean, when the 90 days are over, you don't get it. In fact.
Wait, are you saying they're not going to renew it for me?
No.
No?
No, they're not.
Well, it sounds like the exact same thing, though. I mean, I can clearly now understand the confusion. No, I can't.
They're basically giving you a free trial for their certificate, and then they're more or less locking you in on their service. I mean, you have to pay after that. So what's the point? That is not a free certificate. There are some free certificates you can get. I don't really remember now which one.
There are a few providers out there that do.
There were two providers.
Let's Encrypt has made it simple. They've made it easy, and it's very disruptive for companies that were used to since just sitting back and collecting pretty decent even a shared certificate for our site. Which is not prohibitively expensive, but a couple $100 a year, man. So
$100. I mean, I used to pay for one, and I paid like maybe $20 for 2 years.
Oof! And did you get like a shared certificate or something like that?
No, it was a certificate for one domain from Gandhi, which is a French hosting company, and it's expired like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and I stopped using that, and I switched to Let's Encrypt instead.
Good deal. That's definitely something we're going to be looking into. But Quickster's in the news in the form of Chrome.
Yes, in the form of piracy of all things.
Woo, yar.
So, you may have heard, if you're on the internet, this story actually made the rounds on Twitter yesterday, which was where I found it. Netflix, there is a specific exploit in the Widevine service, which Google Chrome and Firefox and Soap Opera and a bunch of other different browsers use. And that exploit allows people to, say, download DRM content from sites like Netflix, which use the DRM module in your chipset to decrypt whatever content is being provided and then sends it to the browser. And it's at that point when it sends it back to the browser that this exploit can actually capture the video and record it. That, or you just get a simple screen recorder. In most situations that work too. But the vulnerability has been discovered for a while now, and the people who found it are willing to wait the usual 90 days that Google usually gives other companies before they disclose the exploits. And I'm just waiting for those 90 days to be over and someone, say an entrepreneur on the internet, decides to fork a current version of Firefox, load up the exploit script, and start calling it Downflix or something.
Hey man, it's like Popcorn Time Plus.
Yeah.
If you're on Linux, and be honest, I don't think I've ever tried to watch my Amazon Prime videos on Linux, but I know on Netflix, formerly Quickster, the best it can do for you is a really, really bad version of 720p video. That's all it will give you, no matter how much bandwidth you have through your browser, which is atrocious. And I was like, well, that's not even worth my time. But, you know, piracy is kind of a moot point, even with the browser stuff, Pedro, because...
It is. Like every single show for the past 5 years, maybe more than that, I'm being generous with those 5 years, there are already 1080p rips available in your typical torrent sites, like your Pirate Bays and your Kick-Ass torrents and however many more you're able to find, basically. So even for the lowest common denominator of pirates on the internet, this isn't even a thing, because you still need a legitimate Netflix account to access the content. So,
well, Strider, this is going to put Netflix out of business, isn't it?
No, I mean, the InfoSec guys and the press like to make a drama out of like every exploit they can find, but Netflix, I'm pretty sure they're not worried a bit about this, because this is not going to make a difference in their revenue. I mean, people who have Netflix, they will continue paying for Netflix. I mean, this will not change anything. If you want to pirate shows, if you want to download stuff, you can already do it. Even shows that are only on Netflix, you can already get them illegally, and this won't change anything. So one could argue that this would be a good way for legit customers to watch the shows online. But guess what? Netflix just announced that this would be a thing in the near future.
Exactly. That is, I was just about to bring that up. It's already a thing on my Android device any Android device, using the Amazon Prime. You can download, which is, handy if you're going on any type of plane trip in one of those fancy sky machines for anything longer than a few hours, because outside of the extortion price they charge you for the Wi-Fi's and the internets, it's slow and they block everything like the YouTubes and Netflix anyway, so you can't even browse them. But but remember, if you can see it, you can record it. If you can hear it, you can record it. Right.
So no matter what protection you
hey man,
it doesn't matter.
You're going to have to wear blinders and earplugs. That's just how it works. But let's talk about something for Reddit. A Reddit client for GNOME with GTK and Python. Strider's 2 favorite things in the world. And this is something that actually works. I mean, it is just a simple Reddit clone for GNOME, and it is built for touch. It does have the Vim keyboard type layout, so I was like, that's kind of cool. I'm going to play with it. Multi-account support's also in it. So first I was like, all right, let's try this on the Ubuntu 14.04 LTS box. Yeah, step 1 for that's just no. It's just bad times, followed by step 2, which is installing the GNOME common. They just kind of left that out of the installation thing. Got that in there, but then it's like, oh yeah, you also need this Python 3 Arrow, which the only repo I could find for that was an entire version number out of date. So it kind of killed the Autogen SH. It's like, screw it. So I fired up the Fedora 24 box, hit the copper, boom, done. Used it for 10 seconds, and I was like, done. So, but it's free. All this will be in our show notes like everything else. You can check it out. What were you saying?
The thing you need if you install it from the copper, if you build it from source, the dependencies are pretty self-evident. But if you install it from the copper, you will have to install either GNOME Music or Sugar, because someone, when they packaged that RPM, didn't list the dependencies properly.
That I find it unbelievable that still in 2016 developers don't provide like proper build instructions for their software. I mean, you build something, don't you want people to use it? I mean, that's the least you can do is provide.
No, that's the barrier of entry.
Are you trying to take the adventure out of Linux?
No. The barrier of entry is not money, but it's figuring out what the hell they were thinking.
I mean, it's all the part of learning, man. Trying to get this installed, you might learn 3 new things that you never knew of.
Yeah, I mean, I find this unbelievable that we're still at that stage. And this is the reason we need snaps or flats or whatever you want. But we need something to package stuff for any distribution that won't make you jump through all these hoops. And this is just crazy that we still have to do that to this day.
But
it helps keep Linux away from being Windows.
No, that's just a mess. That's just a big mess, and it shows how little developers care about their users. I mean, if you build something, make it usable.
I don't know, man. Have you ever tried to install Lutris?
Lutris is available for every distro.
This is just something that is absolutely cool. And we're talking about ludicrous mode. I'm trying to spaceballs and it won't come out of my head right. It's gone plaid, but it's a cheap HDMI capture tool for Linux. And how cheap? We're talking about 42 quid. Actually, you can find this on Amazon in the States for about 34 wet stinky caches. But what it lets you do is, plug in an HDMI input. It transmogrifies it into an IP address, and Holmes here figured out how to get it to stream through VLC so you can record it. And it works pretty well. In fact, another cat has a newer version of this board, and he's actually started working on a switcher for it, and the newer version actually streams a real codec. So, we got some screenshots if you're watching the video version. What can this be used for? Well, Strider was like, maybe I can make a VCR. And I was like, maybe I can make a production studio, a multicam production studio. And switch between.
You know what you could do? You could maybe record Netflix.
Well, here's something a lot of people don't know. I was like, basically, any HDMI splitter that you buy, especially, like from Alibaba, it strips the DRM off that and just gives you a clean signal. So, that's something to think about. But, yeah, definitely go check that on the show. I'm thinking about picking one up. I don't know for what. Just maybe have multiple cameras and build multiple Skype boxes. It's just cool. I love stuff like that, and it is a neat project. But
if you don't mind a little bit introducing a little bit of delay to the Twitch stream, you could use just a dedicated box for streaming while doing everything just,
I mean, that's definitely a thing for it in Game Engine. A lot of people go, why don't you just get a Blackmagic Intensity Pro 2 yellow swag? And it's like, oh, I don't know, because they're about 300 fucking quid. And, outside of that, 36, 35 bucks, that's Raspberry level. That's like, oh, you plug it in, you make it work, and you're like, neat. Then you put it on a shelf and you forget about it. So that's probably the route I will go with this. But tell me about this ad. Wait, no, it's not an ad.
No, it's not. We have to thank 84 people for kicking us 152 wet stinky caches a week, and we do thank them very, very much. Thank you to all our lovely Patreons, and if you'd like to become a Patreon and have, say, what?
Oh, no, tell me about it, man. I've never heard of this thing.
Say if you want to, get early access to, early access. That's a bad one. Not nowadays. Let's say you get early access to our show notes. Yeah, our show notes indeed. And you also get to see, let's say, our LGC players that we record 1 week earlier than everybody else. Nothing that we have currently. There are 78 patron-only posts. And most of those are already available publicly. You just need to go to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to find them. They'll just come a little bit later because we like to give our Patreon.
Advance. Right, and that's definitely a thing. And you're going to get the latest. You can come there and get your updates. Check out the rewards. We got another goal coming up, and it's less than $50 away because everyone loves our favorite Brazilian and Canadian. He really hates playing Serious Sam 3, and we intend to make him play through the whole thing. Here's something completely off topic, guys. Completely off topic is Twitch has just introduced an eating channel. Not cooking, eating.
So are we targeting the Boca Burgers?
I'm not kidding. That was like on the line, the first thing that came in my mind. I was like, all right, we're going to make a contest out of this. You want to bring it to town, son? Let's go.
You give us enough money a week, and basically we will become your monkeys, and we will dance on your command.
We will own the diabetes, guaranteed.
Oh yeah.
All right. Wow, this is a very sparse blog. GTK 5.0 is not GTK 5. Explain.
Yeah. So last week there were the GTK Hackfest in Toronto. Mm-hmm. So this is a big meeting where all the GTK developers gather and talk about GTK stuff and GNOME stuff. And they came up with this new versioning system for GTK, which I find is quite good. So the basic is when they will release GTK 4 4.0 or GTK 5.0, it will not be what you'll want to target. This will be something quite unstable, and you'll have to wait for a couple releases, like say GTK 4.6 or 5.6. And then when this is released, it is considered stable. It won't move. You can target this, and no matter what, it will be a stable API. So this.
Wait, Pedro, do you think it's going to be as stable as GTK 3?
That was one of the things that they mentioned. It's like the admission that GTK 3, even though it's already GTK 3.20 that they released not too long ago, is still not as stable as GTK 2. So they literally say
as in the API constantly changes, not stable. Not
again,
stable as
we're already in GTK 3.20. And it's still not as stable.
Yeah, mostly the instabilities are for team developers. So that's the styling of the widget that constantly changes. Otherwise, it's more like new widgets being introduced, which doesn't bring up a lot of problems because either you stick with the old stuff and you're all right. Mm-hmm. You might have like some deprecation warnings at most, or you use the new stuff and you will have.
So it's the Linux kernel way of development. They release a version, they release headers for those versions, and you can target those versions if you want and just do. I don't know.
Yeah. And with the new stuff, if you target, like, say, GTK 4, what you want to do is wait for GTK 4.6 to be released. And then
okay. So it's the KDE way of doing things, right? Even though KDE won't admit it. Okay.
Well, I mean, we all know Qt is far superior to GTK anyway.
So yeah, I mean, I am a GTK developer. I use GTK for Lutris, and I do like what they're bringing here. And some people are complaining that it is kind of confusing how like GTK 4.0 would be not stable and you would have to wait for 4.6, which is kind of arbitrary. They could have used a better system by using Wine versioning system, which is basically, okay, you have the 1.5, which is unstable, and then you have 1.6 and then 1.8, which are all really stable versions. So all the points and with even number are all the stable releases and all the.
So they're basically introducing long-lived and short-lived branches.
Yes, yeah, that's. I think, don't they have that in the kernel as well?
Yeah, they do. And the NVIDIA drivers, and just about every single established bit of software that is iterative in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is still okay, and this should improve the way GTK support works. And
we hope so, because
less of a mess. This doesn't fix the main problem, though, which is Debian. if you target
Debian, Red Hat, and all those other
and
distros
maybe
that are
Red
still
Hat,
using
CentOS, and
GTK2.
all the distribution that ship like really old stuff.
Do you mean all the distributions that kind of look at GTK and 3 and what? You know what? No, we don't want any of that. No, that's all right.
Those two.
No, but if you write software that is targeting Debian stable, you have to hold back the features because, you have to.
Well, of course you do, man. You're still working with the 2.4 kernel.
The new stuff.
It's 2.632 now. Come on.
Yeah, they did update the latest in the stable. But tell me about these licenses.
Yes, licenses. So, the author of this article, and I'm totally going to butcher her name, and for that, I am sorry, Anwesha Das, she was introduced to Fedora, the operating system, not too long ago, at least judging by what she wrote. And after realizing that it wasn't the hat that they were talking to her about, it was an actual Linux distribution like the one I use, she decided to actually dive into it and look at all the packages that are available in the repos and compile a bit of a list of all the licenses that those packages are being distributed under. And this is actually a very, very nice visual representation of the most commonly used licenses for the packages included in the Fedora repos. The ones you don't see there are the ones that didn't meet like a certain number of packages. Say they only had like 1 or 2 packages. What?
All of those that using like less than 10 packages, they're not displayed.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
And I was looking at it, and as someone who uses Fedora but doesn't really care for the Fedora way of handling licenses, namely not including some licenses because they're not free, they're not open source, they're not this, they're not that, but then at the same time still running a kernel full of blobs, proprietary blobs. This is all for naught. If you want a truly free and open source distro, chances are you're still looking at Triskel. Because, for all the parroting developers do.
Well, I mean, you can definitely save yourself some time by looking around. Just ring up Stallman and be like, yo, cuz, what are you running? He'll tell you. And he's like, all right, boom, that's the most.
Yeah, and it's Triskel. Nowadays it's Triskel. He's running Triskel on a Lenovo PC with Core Boot.
Something.
The open source BIOS thing.
Of course, you need to have the correct hardware, or else you won't have any.
Oh yeah, you have to have open source hardware, or otherwise.
Right.
So it's mostly old ThinkPad laptops, maybe some kind of old desktop computer as well with AMD graphics. Maybe.
So you're saying I get some use out of my Sun laptop? Now, my biggest takeaway from this, I mean, somebody who's been using Linux since the long ago, is, this is represented by size in circles. And it angers me being a Venn and there's no diagram here. I'm just like vibrating with anger.
Those circles do not intersect.
What the biggest thing, because when we're thinking about Linux, we're thinking about, GPL, GPL2, like that. But the big gorilla here is MIT and BSD, man. Well, why do you think that is?
Because those are genuinely free open source library licenses. They are. I mean, MIT actually actively prohibits you from, say, creating commercial software under that license. You can't do it. BSD, I'm not so sure about. I never really read too much on the BSD.
is more along the lines of do whatever you want. You don't have to give anything back, and Apple's like,
no, that's
that.
zlib.
Yeah.
That's zlib.
No,
zlib, which is at the top left there. Yeah. That one you can do basically anything you want. It's just if you want to say that it was distributed with the zlib license, you can. If you don't, you don't.
Seems legit. Okay. How TNW creates a smart office experience with a Raspberry Pi. Actually, they had a couple of things. Stuff they're using the Pi for now. Strider hates this because he's like, it's closed source stuff. I'm Richard Stallman, and he grew a beard. It was frightening. But they're currently using it for Sonos Slack integration. I was like, I can do that. I have Sonos, and I was like, going to go try that. But then I got to go find my Pi. They have auto check-in, just stuff around the office, and a bunch of other little fun things to tinker with. I mean, none of it's crazy, but Just the thought of it just got me thinking. Not necessarily that. Well, the article kind of put the thought in my brain organ. I was like, what else could, I mean, outside of making speed cameras because you're a horrible neighbor, outside of doing that, what type of automation task do you think would be possible with a Raspberry Pi as opposed to, I don't know, an Arduino?
Well, the Raspberry Pi is actually a fully working computer. Really teeny tiny. The Arduino still requires a bit more, a bit of a more hands-on approach, as it were. Because, yeah, all you really need for the Raspberry Pi is an SD card and a USB mouse and keyboard. Away we go.
Basically, if you need HTTP, if you need a display, or maybe not even display, but if you need internet stuff, you might want to use a Raspberry Pi. Oh, yeah. And totally unrelated news, you can probably buy a Raspberry Pi Zero today.
Shh, don't tell them I haven't bought out the stock
Strider,
yet.
Come on, man.
I'm dropping the secret right now. Quick, we'll all buy Raspberry Pi Zeros before the show is produced.
That's definitely a thing. But, one of the things
about this project, I mean, be old school. Use stuff like IRC and MPD and Pulse Audio, like, open stuff. That would be better.
Man.
You just hate not freedom, man. I don't know what's wrong with you. But shockingly, somebody decided to embrace a little freedom.
Yeah. Actually making good on their word. The fine folks at Microsoft finally decided to open source open the source for .NET. And I started reading the article. It's like .NET Core 1.0. Really, wait, .NET 1.0? That's like from 2002. Oh no, wait, this is .NET Core, which is different from .NET 1.0. Naming schemes, Microsoft. But then again, I really shouldn't be expecting anything else from the people that went from Windows 3 to 95 and from 8 to 10. But whatever. .NET Core, which is to regular .NET what Android is to regular Java. And if all the implications that just came into your head the moment I said that don't have you running for the hills, well, they should have. Because Microsoft is really trying to set themselves up with something, with a sort of a virtual machine, much in the same way that Android works. Instead of being on top of Java, it works on top of .NET. So that's kind of scary in a way.
I don't know, because I would trust Microsoft more than Oracle in regards of doing stuff with
No.
I mean, Oracle,
listen, man, if I'm in a room with one bullet and they're like, okay, who are you going to take out, Microsoft or Oracle? I'm taking myself out, because that's
No, the problem is that would start to be a problem if Microsoft stops being relevant like Oracle is today.
Right.
Because, Oracle has caused some problems because no one cares about Oracle now. And Microsoft is still like kind of around. Like a lot of people use Windows and stuff like that. So if one day Microsoft stops being relevant, they will cause some problem legally. And I hope this day doesn't come, because I don't want, Flibbity Jibibo being sued over FNA or stuff like this.
Well, that's true. I mean, reading this was my favorite thing. Is it was announced at the Red Hat Summit. I just want to know the name of the intern that drew that short straw. I want video of that announcement.
There's probably going to be video of it the moment they start wrapping up the Red Hat things. There's going to be video of it. I'm just waiting to see.
Be the equivalent of me showing up at MS Dev Days, man. That was just...
There was one bit that worried me a little bit. That was the mention that Unity, the game engine, joined the .NET Foundation.
They were already
and they're
.NET.
using MonoDevelop in their IDE, which makes it possible to have a Linux native version. So if they really switch to .NET as opposed to using Mono, that would be a problem for the native Unity engine.
They are already using .NET. What we get under Linux is a monogame reimplementation of it, but they are using .NET. If you crack open a Unity project in Windows, it uses .NET.
Yeah, but it gets compiled to Mono. But what I'm talking about is really the IDE shipped with Unity engine, because we don't yet have Visual Studio under Linux.
Yes, we do.
No, that one.
Visual Studio Code.
The one you're talking about doesn't
crippled,
count.
glorified text editor is Visual Studio.
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Visual Studio Code does not count as Visual Studio.
Okay, tell us all about the Pentiums.
Yeah. So soon you won't be able to run Ubuntu on your Pentium 3 because Ubuntu has planned to drop support for 32
Won't be able to run
bits.
it on your Titanic either.
Yeah. They have planned to drop support for 32-bit images for the desktop and server really soon, actually. They will drop by 1710.
Mm-hmm.
No, the first one that won't have any installable 32-bit support is Ubuntu 18.10.
1810.
1810, right?
You see what they're looking at? Yeah, 1810. I mean, they really plan on nuking all 32-bit support from Orbit by, what was that, 2021. So that sounds far away, but that's like 5 years from now. Which, do you think Canonical's still going to be around in 5 years?
Maybe, but if they want to kill the ISO, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't kill the 32-bit repos and the packages. They can't. Otherwise, that implication you just made there, Ven, it's going to hold water because they will not be relevant at that point. Because as it currently stands, Ubuntu already has several issues with doing multilib properly. Say you ever wanted to compile a 32-bit package on a 64-bit Ubuntu install, you probably run into issues, and if you want to know why, you just look inside the USR lib folder of a 64-bit Ubuntu install, and you'll see there's an i386-GNU-lib folder in there. Why?
Yeah,
those are the multilibs. Yeah. And also, one thing, while I'm on this subject, why would they not use the USR lib 32 folder, which they already have? And while I'm at it, why do they have separate USR libs and root libs folders?
Yeah,
why?
Just the way you have /bin and USR bin as well.
Fedora doesn't do that anymore, and it's working.
So my main worry is, because their plan is to drop the 32-bit repos and tell everyone to use VMs or containers or snap packages to run their 32-bit
I really hope that's
apps.
not their end game with the snaps. I really hope not.
But the thing is that 99% of 32-bit apps are games. So if you want to use these, you need the OpenGL drivers. And if you want the OpenGL drivers, you need 32-bit libc. So this is why, like, for example, in Lutris, we don't ship those. We don't ship libc and 32 GCC. We mark them as dependencies, and they are not in the 32-bit repos. They are like, you can install them from the 64 bits repos directly. But as long as we have support for this is all fine, and we can bring the 32 bits dependencies as an additional runtime, like Steam does, and like Lutris does, and like many other games already ship directly. This is not a problem. As long as I do that, this is fine. As soon as we don't have 32-bit OpenGL drivers, this is going to be like a disaster.
Well, I mean, you can definitely say that for gaming, but fortunately we have things like Lutris. Maybe everyone's just going to be falling back on Lutris. for that business in the future when we no longer have 30-bit support. But I mean, with games outside of that, Linux is not known for backwards compatibility, Pedro.
Yeah, and that's kind of the reason that Valve had to create the runtime for Steam, and the reason that Strider had to make the runtime for Lutris. It's and this is only going to make it worse, because there are going to be 30, if they actually do nuke all 32-bit libraries and all the packages and everything else, they're going to leave something out of the, let's say, legacy support or whatever they decide to call it. They're going to leave something out, and that's going to be causing a lot of issues, especially in gaming, because, like Strider already mentioned,
you can't make a runtime for libgl or libc.
Yeah, it's going to cause issues, and that's fine if you don't want to release and support 32-bit ISOs. Hey, more power to you. Just about everything that's sold nowadays is 64-bit, including ARM devices. Go figure. So that's fine. Just leave the packages alone.
Okay.
We don't need all the packages. We only need a few of them, and because all the 32-bit only apps will be old stuff. We don't need like the newer libraries. We don't need builds for those. So if we can get compatible working libraries for, like, say, Ubuntu 16.04 or something, this will be fine. We don't need all the repository for 32 bits.
Well, MT has a point. By that time, we'll just download the Windows version and just run it under Wine. It won't be an issue. But, gentlemen, I think that's going to do it for our topics.
Indeed.
Pedro, do we have anybody writing us this week with some
Yes, we do. We had several comments on last week's video on YouTube, but that is definitely a way you can get in touch with us. Otherwise, you can also go to linuxgamecast.com, hit the contact button, fill out the form, fill the CAPTCHA. It's easy enough. Just pick out whether you want to send some feedback for Linux Weekly Daily Wednesday, or if you want to send some hate mail to Linux Gamecast Weekly. That's basically it. I had something else, but I forgot. It slipped my mind. But yeah, you can also leave comments on YouTube. Like most of the feedback we got this week came from YouTube. You can also leave a comment on Patreon, on Facebook, or on Google Plus, or on Twitter. Just let us know, and we'll get back to you. So, Don's
talking about the desktop manager. He's like, you know what? Because we were talking about the Unities and the Gnomes last week, and he says, I'm in the minority that likes Unity and GNOME 3, non-fallback. Though I'm also a fan of the better solution, which I'm adding words, but that's what he really meant, XFCE, and to a lesser extent, Mate.
Yeah, don't worry, you're not a minority. It's just that normal people do like Unity and GNOME 3 and don't make a big fuss about it. I mean, the XFCE and all the alternative desktops, they are kind of like arch users. They like to, hey, I'm running XFCE, Unity sucks.
Really? I always preface it with, I like to get stuff done, and I don't like a buggy, shoddy experience that's prone to crashing and is really slow.
I use Unity every day. It's not buggy.
I know you do. I mean, it has not done you any good. I mean, you've evolved as a person since you've started.
I mean, look at yourself, Strider. Look at yourself.
Look what Unity has done to me.
Okay.
So, on that note, since we're talking about Unity, you can get to the terminal in GNOME in one click. GNOME is very efficient and productive once you get used to the keyboard shortcuts and configure favorites to your liking. This comes from Carl,
your meat dragon. It's horrifying. Yeah, man. I'm completely with that. I mean, if you're a GNOME diehard, see, this is the whole thing, because, we're very, tribal. We all have our camps. I mean, that's just our base human mentality. It doesn't matter with the sports ball teams, distros, AMD, NVIDIA, or even down to desktops. You're like, I really like GNOME, or even widget sets, GTK. I really like Qt, and we're always going to have that. And I say, as long as it works for you, even if your name's Strider and you use an inferior product like Unity, you're cool with me, man. I mean, it's kind of like your personal beliefs with politics and religions. As long as you're fine with it and you don't try to push it on me at any point, rock on. Learn those GNOME shortcuts. I mean, for me, my personal experience, that's all I'm saying, is it took me 4 clicks to get to a terminal. I was like, that's never happening again.
No, I agree with him that GNOME is very efficient with the keyboard shortcuts. And this is one of the reasons I need on any other desktop, I need to have like a program launcher like Synapse installed in order to be efficient.
It's called Alt F2. Let's see, XFCE
Alt
has
F2.
it, LXD has it, OpenBox has it. There are several launchers that you can use. The OpenBox one is actually very, very simple. It's almost instantaneous the moment it comes up. It's just, you can rebind it from, say, Alt F2 to just, I don't know, maybe the Mod 4 key or the Windows key, whatever you want to call it. Like Unity or GNOME 3 do it in order to call up the HUD. You just hit that key and you type it out.
Not good enough because you have to type the exact name of the program you want to launch.
Tab autocomplete is a thing, you know that, right?
No, yeah, but you have to, if you say you have to run GNOME terminal, you have to start typing GNOME dash.
Or if, say, you're using XFCE, you can just type term and then hit the down key, and look, there's a bunch of terminals there.
See, that's where you're wrong. Once you install the XFCE for extras packages, it reads your mind. But finally, to close this out, oh great, it's more of this.
Oh yeah, the 4-click issue on GNOME 3 is why I installed the drop-down terminal extension. Yes, Quake or any of the other ones, really.
That's not who said this. AC. You were not the first person to tell me that. We actually had some people on Chat Realm last week. They're like, yes, that's why I installed the extension. Which I know GNOME 3. That is the like people jump on it. And they're like, but you can make it do whatever you want. I was like, do I have to add an extension for everything? You absolutely do. And I was like, no.
That's the thing about GNOME and Unity to a certain degree, although Unity is actually slightly better than GNOME in that respect, is that everything in GNOME, say you want minimize and maximize buttons, install an extension. Would you like to change the color of your panel? Install an extension. Dude!
Not for this case, I think it's not, you don't need extensions, but yeah, if you want to make the launcher a dock, for example, yeah, you do need an extension. You can get done a pretty large number of things with just GNOME Tweak tool. So that's something you really want is GNOME Tweak. You can set up the themes and like modify the buttons on the Windows and all kinds of stuff. So you want
Arthur and Chatrell brought up tilde. You have tilde, you have Quake, there are several HUD terminals that you can call down with the push of a button. I used to use one for the longest time, and I set it to the / button, which is where the tilde key is on US keyboards. So yeah, that's what I used for the longest time.
Yeah, that's kind of one of like I'm horrible about virtual terminals. I mean, if anyone's ever seen me after I get done working on something, there's like 13 of them, even though all my terminals support tabs. It's like, no, we need to be completely confused. And if I had a drop-down one, especially if it supported tabs, I would just lose my fracking mind. Almost dropped the F-bomb, but I didn't. So I'm going to call it safe for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, because this has been Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, and I've been Vince Stone.
Hi, I'm Peter Mateus.
And I am Matthew Commando.
Thanks. Everyone who watches, likes the videos, shares, all that does wonders and special things to the people that keep this show independent. Our Patreons, patreon.com/Linux Gamecast. You're just a little extra.
Throw a penny at our heads.
Woohoo!
Yes.